So here's where we stand. I drained all the oil out. I left the drain plug for the oil off. And the reason I did that is I wanted to know as early as possible if antifreeze was leaking into the engine block. And I have a tin can under that, and you might hear an occasional drip drip, but I think that's just the oil coming. I am able to reach under here and feel the area where it was dripping before, and totally dry. So I'm going to show you the level of the coolant in the heads. Hopefully you'll be able to see that on camera, but you can see, I'll do them individually and zoom in on them. You can see coolant there, so it is pretty high up in that head. And the reason I stopped there is because the back one was totally full. And if I put any more in, it would overflow because the engine tilts towards the back. But I'm going to leave that there, probably overnight, and come and check the levels in that coolant. And if the levels are good and I don't see any sign of any leakage near the head where it was dripping before, I am going to assume, maybe that's a bad thing to do, but I'm going to declare that we've got the issue identified as a bad seal around these two coolant passageways. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. Hopefully that'll be a wrap for identifying the leak at least, and I'll be on the way to getting it corrected. I did notice, I read the shop manual for stock heads, cast iron in other words, and the torque specs for that intake manifold were 30 foot-pounds. Now, I probably had them tightened to about 10. That's just a guess. I had them spark plug tight, and that's not anywhere near 30 foot-pounds. So I don't know how I'm going to determine how tight to make these things, because the last thing I want to do is strip out a head of a bolt, or not a head of a bolt, the thread in the head. That would be bad, because I'd have to take this all back off and put in a helicoil to repair it. And putting in a helicoil requires tapping and drilling, and or actually the reverse order, drilling and tapping. But you potentially introduce bits of metal into the engine, and that's not a good thing. So I don't know how I'm going to determine how tight to make these things. Maybe the solution will be to just put a bunch of RTV on it, so that regardless, as long as it doesn't fall off, the RTV will seal. I'll do some research, see if I can find anything on that. But for now, that's where we stand. Anyways, thanks for watching. So, came down to check today, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but the level of coolant, maybe if I move the light, stayed up in there. I felt around the head where I was feeling the leak, seeing the leak before, and it is bone dry. So apparently the head is not leaking, the head gasket.